Here. Hi, Jan.
Looking for approval of the minutes, or approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? So moved. Approval of the minutes of the April 20th TAC meeting.
Move to approve?
Lambert, second.
Approved by Jeff. Lambert, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? So moved. Financial report. Going to take that.
I'll take the financial part. So going into about halfway through the year, it seems like we're generally on pace for what we were expecting. It's a little bit tough because we do get our grants from MnDOT, from the state and the federal, in spurts, not necessarily monthly. So it's a little tough to garner revenue, but from bus fares, you'll see a little bit in Crystal will talk a little bit about ridership and 22 to 23, but obviously we've had some fare increases since May, at least for the Brainerd fares. And we have some other changes coming up here soon too. So it'll be something that we'll continue to monitor throughout the rest of the year. But as of right now, we're generally on pace for what we were targeting. It's very similar to expenses. We may be a little bit better than we were expecting on motor fuels. The same thing with our vehicle repairs. Tough to say, we're usually about a month behind on that, but we should be on pace to be at or below that by the end of the year. We did have a little bit of extra expenses due to our work with Route Match, with some of our computer technical support, but again, just overall, we're probably on target for what we're expecting for expenditures. We'll continue to monitor that throughout the rest of the year. As a reminder, the original budget had a budgeted shortfall of about $68,000. Currently, our reserve balance is just under $63,000. But similar to some of the discussions that have been happening with all of our cooperative partners is as we go through these changes, a good reminder for everybody that anything that they don't generate through their fare revenue would be billed to them through an invoice to cover up the shortfall that they don't generate through revenue for their portion of the fares. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else to quick share unless there's other questions on the financial side.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Jeff.
This isn't necessarily directly related to finances, but could you tell me again when the county's fair will be implemented and then Baxter's are the same day, right?
I believe they're both August 1st, if I remember correctly.
And
That's
then
correct.
what we decided on is the 21st of August for the city, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Sort of financial related. Sort of.
No problem.
That's how I got there. I was just curious.
No more financial information? We'll move on to unfinished business.
Okay. Well, Crystal can cover a little bit on ridership and some of the statistics that we've seen so far this year.
Right after the financials, you'll see the ridership stats. You'll see in 2022 versus 2023, total passengers, there was a small decrease. Same with, if you look at June specifically. However, if you look at the revenue in June of 2023 versus 2022, it is up slightly. This I would relate to the fare increases. Is there any questions on ridership comparisons?
Based on your numbers being, the revenue being up, does that, I know the fare increase does make a difference, that $1, correct, for the city of Brainerd, but is there a trend you see changing same-day riders at all? Because you do collect more revenue on those. Is that, you're tracking that as well, correct?
I am tracking that. However,
Maybe not in that.
I don't believe it shows in this
Right,
report.
okay, we can get back. I'm just curious.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
ask Chris a question. Regarding,
You and your mic.
how's that? Okay. Regarding this report, do you think the fact that we didn't, the school's out, does that put any changes in this?
Yes, definitely. That'll affect the ridership numbers. We'll have a slight decrease due to school being out.
Okay. Have you heard anything from customers about the rate increase?
I have. I've heard both ways.
Yeah. I
It
do.
works. It works for them. It's still equitable at this point.
Okay. That was all.
Mr. Chair?
Anything else? Yes.
I guess I have a question related to that with the, St. Francis, is that now still under the same contract, or do we have a new agreement with them starting up with this new fare increase, or how is that being addressed, if at all?
So we will establish a new memorandum with them for the upcoming school year. It's kind of a typical thing we do every year. Prior to the upcoming school year, is we establish what those rates will be for the school year.
I can barely hear you.
I apologize. No, it is something that we do every year, is we establish a new memorandum with the school. We haven't done the memorandum exactly with the school yet, but we are going to start having those conversations. I believe Jennifer Nagel was going to contact me later this week to discuss some of these changes.
But no feedback other than what you intend on doing? You haven't got any, you haven't let them know any kind of changes are coming their way or anything that,
No, I've been waiting to get in contact with her to talk about what our changes are going to look like.
okay. Thank you.
Any other unfinished business? New business? Says none. Move into public forum.
Let's go.
Mr. Vice Chair, we do have under unfinished business, we still have the update memo. I'd like to quick go over with the TAC, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So just a quick update for the TAC on where we're at now after we've had an opportunity to kind of go through all of the different boards and councils and provide the recommendation that we provided to TAC back last April. So in the memo, I included a quick refresher on what our recommendations were, and then I also included an update. So I'll quick just run through the updates, not really a reminder, but so Pine River did elect to discontinue their service. They had adopted a resolution formally discontinuing it as of July 14th, so just about a week ago. So they are no longer having service. Their city clerk did commit that they would put some information on their website just to kind of help inform their constituents of different alternative measures. One thing that they brought up was that Family Market does provide grocery delivery for their customers. So providing that information to everybody that, for especially those Family Market riders, that there is an alternative measure for them. Crow Wing County elected to follow staff recommendation and increase the fares to $8 and $12, $8 for advanced rides, $12 for same day, and consolidation of the service into a twice daily service from centralized location in Crosby and Pequot. And those changes are set to take effect as of August 1st. Baxter similarly also took staff's recommendation. However, they decided to go an extra step when we presented the financial analysis. They were concerned that although a much smaller projected deficit, they did see a deficit number in future years in that projection. So to address that, they did increase the fare beyond what staff had recommended at the 6 and 10 and move forward with the 7 and 11 structure for Baxter originating fares. And then finally, Brainerd did take this under advisement both at the July 3rd meeting as well as the meeting on July 17th. The July 3rd meeting, it was voted 3-3 with a tie vote, and it was elected to bring back to the 17th. At the meeting on the 17th, the council unanimously elected to adopt a fare of $3 and $6. So $3 for day in advance and $6 for same day service for Brainerd originating fares. And again, that'll go into effect August 21st. So we are putting out public notice for those as well. The only other update I do have with this is with the changes for Crow Wing County, we have been finalizing our locations for like pickup and drop-offs in Crosby and Pequot. In evaluating this, Crystal and I had looked at this and felt like we could come up with 2 locations in each of those communities instead of trying to focus on one, because that could be a little bit burdensome, especially as we're trying to grow the service out there. So we've contacted, so one of the locations in Pequot will be the church, very similarly to what it is now for St. Francis Children. The second location would be the Super Value. And I've spoken with the store manager at that Super Value, and coincidentally enough, the store is used as a Jefferson Lines bus pickup for their bus charter service. So they were acceptable to using their location as a one of our other secondary spots. Crosby, we've talked with the Holiday Station store. It's actually adjacent to the highway, kind of a centralized location for Crosby. The second location, we're still having discussions with Crosby on. The St. Francis kids were getting picked up from the library, and I believe that was the last couple years that they've been doing that. And if we're remembering correctly, the potential reason why it was moved to the library is they were doing work at the community center at the time, because it used to be the community center for some years before that. So because of the hours and the ability for those buildings to be open, that was something that we really looked hard at for these types of locations where they're going to be centralized and where people are going to be waiting for a bus for us, is that it provides an opportunity for people in inclement weather to have some sort of a shelter or be able to get out of the elements. And the concern with the library is the hours. They don't typically open until 10. Now, obviously, many St. Francis children have their parents that'll probably drop them off, keep them in the car. But for some of the other riders that may be using that location as their area, there's no real reprieve there. So we are having conversations with Crosby, and I believe that conversation is going to happen next week on moving that location back to the community center. The hours are a little bit more advantageous. I believe they open at 6 o'clock during the week. So this would provide places for people to be in the morning for sure, and obviously they're open up in the afternoon as well when we get back. But again, really to be able to provide that location that does have an available shelter type thing for people as they're waiting for the bus. With that, I don't think I have any other updates on that and where those are at.
Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Jay.
Jesse, since the city did not follow your recommendation, are we going to be in a deficit for the city of Brainerd?
I can't say. On paper, based on the analysis, yes, we were representing that $4 would have to be the number to balance the book. But it's really tough for us to say exactly what the reaction is going to be going from a 2 1/4 fare to a 3 versus a 2 1/4 to a 4. If we end up keeping up more rides than we would have lost, that might balance it as well. It's really tough for me to say for sure.
Mr. Chair, may I have the floor again?
Yes.
There's another option I don't think we've discussed, and, the city in charter says that we can levy for transit. It's on page 7, but I don't know what the number 31, saying that the city is authorized to exceed an overall levy limitations by an amount not to exceed 3% for its previous year's total. And it is for, the additional levy shall be used for the purpose of establishing and maintaining a public bus or transit facility or subsidizing a private bus or transit facility. So we do have that as another option. I believe that would be available. I would say through our comp plan, the transit system is very important to the city of Brainerd and their residents, and I think we need to respect that. I'm concerned that transit is going to fall by the wayside if we don't start doing something to protect it going forward. So it just comes down to how important is transit to our committee, to the city council, to see if there's, another option that can be looked at, especially when the budget's coming up this year. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'll be sure and bring that up at our next meeting, and maybe that can be a request to put on our agenda for August 7th, a discussion on that, or committee anyway, maybe PNF. That is my job as liaison, I do believe, so I don't know if that's ever been looked at. I suspect maybe, did that never get thought of by staff when we came back with those recommendations?
Yes, we knew that levy was an option.
Yeah.
We wanted the council to provide that input if that was something that they were willing to explore.
Right, and I guess with that being something we can always talk about, we do have to, I think one of the troubles with levying is we won't have exact numbers for probably January, correct? Would that be a fair statement of where we're at financially? And
For transit, is it?
Just as, the reason back at the July 3rd meeting, that's why I asked to have that monthly reports given on our ridership and revenues, which did not pass on that tied vote. But that was something that I'd still like to see we keep track of, and you would let us know on the, maybe as a council and committee basis to kind of provide those to see where we're tracking once the fares do get $3 after August 21st or whatever. I know you can report, you got the reports, so if that's something we could do to just try to see where we're at. Anyway, but I kind of cut you off there, I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted a clarification on if you were referring to transit finances in January.
Well, yeah, I mean, in order to know where we're gonna be, so if we're gonna levy, do we just take a shot in the dark of where we might fall if we have a shortfall? Because we don't know until the end of the year, right?
If the council wanted to go that direction, I think we would be willing to do some work on our end on the staff side and find out what an appropriate estimated number would be for 2024.
Right. Right, and again, that would be for next year. So, and you indicated that if we're short, we do have our reserve to, not a lot there, I understand, but that's just one of those things, so. But to support what your thought is, Jan,
Okay.
I will ask that we have a discussion in one way or another. I don't know if committee would be the appropriate place, or if that could be a full council discussion, just to throw it out there, see what people think, and go from there.
Mr. Chair, I have a question with the shortfall, that'll come out of our budget, or will that come out of general funds?
So it depends on where the shortfall lies. So we would do an analysis on our end of, based on the percentages, what the expected expenditures for each party would be, or each cooperative, and then how much they raised in revenues. And then we kind of figure out if there's surplus, obviously that goes into our fund, but if there's a deficit, then that's where the invoicing goes to each of our cooperative partners.
No, I mean for Brainerd, would it come out of our reserves, or would it come out of general fund?
It would come out of our reserve as we have available. Otherwise, it would go in through general fund.
Okay, thanks, Jesse.
Mr. Chair, or Mr. Vice Chair. A suggestion. So the changes to the rates are being made, applied here in August. Is this something that you would like to track over a year? There is a fund balance, and maybe this is something you'd want to track over a year and maybe consider something like this for the 2025 budget. Just a suggestion, I'm thinking, as Jesse has mentioned, really hard to kind of gauge, but after 9 months, 12 months, you'll have a better idea of how those fare increases have impacted the overall budget. And then the city would start our budget process in July of 2024, and that might be a better time to talk about what that looks like in '25. Just a suggestion.
Mr. Chair, I agree with that, but we're still going to be going, well, if we still have a deficit, we're going to have to make it up that much more, but I think that would be okay too. Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, I agree with you. We don't know. I mean, at the end of this, we're long past our budget levying period once we find out our actual numbers.
And Mr. Chair, and then we have to set our preliminary levy by the end of September.
Right.
That's really only going to give you probably, not even, because you're not going to have a full month of data before the city has to set their preliminary levy.
Right. So yeah, to talk about it, essentially what you're saying is to have that discussion soon it's kind of an effort in futility because we don't know where we're going to be until next year sometime, have a better estimate of what any shortfalls are, or even if we need to talk about it, because if we're managing to collect the fares to cover the cost, then we're okay. So there's no point in talking about a levy if we have the fares to pay for it.
So you would not bring that up at council at all?
Yeah, now that after hearing from Jennifer, I think it's kind of
Premature.
yeah. But I can always, just put a bug out there, maybe I'll draft a memo and tell them, okay, whatever.
I just don't want it to get lost. That's the important thing.
I apologize that I'm late. I have 3. Oh, thank you for turning that on. I'm just all discombobulated now. So anyway, I apologize for being late. I thought we started at 3, and according to that clock, I'm 2 minutes early. But according to the agenda, it was 2:30. So I apologize. I will try to catch up to where we're at here. And
You're just lucky we had a quorum.
yeah, okay.
You would have showed up and nobody would have been here.
So we're unfinished business. I'm assuming we covered kind of the proposed fare increases. Was there a motion?
There's no need for.
No need for motion.
Just so you know, Chairman Bertram, the city council voted to increase the Brainerd fares $3 for advance and $6 for same day, as opposed to the recommended 4 and 8.
Okay.
And then you know what the county did, right?
Yep, I read the notes here before I came.
Okay.
So
So we moved to 7. There is no 7, so we're at 8.
And
Did he
no
get
more-
here in time for the adjournment?
Yeah, maybe just time to finish the meeting, I guess. Public forum. Do we have anyone online or anyone who would like to say anything? It's not sounding that way. All right, number 9, staff reports.
All right. That would be me. Welcome, Mr. Chair. I apologize for the confusion and the time.
I'm pretty sure it was just my error, but so no apology necessary.
I just wanted to give an update on a few highlights. I've included a lot of updates in this meeting's transit department update, just so the committee could see all the things that transit is up to in the past couple of months since we've met last. The highlights would be that we, staff, recently met with ACOM, which is a transit consulting company that MnDOT did hire for, to work with public transit agencies throughout Minnesota, and City of Brainerd did receive the opportunity to work with them, and we did our first meeting and just discussed our future changes, goals, and it was really good timing with all our service changes. So what has happened since the meeting is I've provided them with all the documentation that they've requested, everything from all our contracts and service information, technology as well, and they're reviewing all that, and I will be meeting with them bi-weekly and they'll discuss technology at one, service at another, and then in the future, I don't have a date, they'll come with recommendations on goals that we should be setting, that they would recommend we set to continue improving our service to the public. The other item that's been going on and has been going on since May is Blue Sky Transit has been having staffing difficulties. Not only have they been without the on-site manager for a few months now, they also have had some driver staffing issues. And this ultimately has affected productivity and efficiency, obviously, when they're low staffed to what is necessary. I am meeting with their manager, their director, every morning and providing him with training. And I'm also meeting with the dispatchers often and providing them training almost daily, just to keep us rolling forward, because I do have that knowledge. So I might as well give it to them while in the meantime until they find a manager. And the last thing I wanted to highlight was the upcoming projects that we have going on, which is right now Jesse and I are preparing for the application for our 2024 Public Transit Operating Grant. So we are in the first phase of that. The application has changed since years past. It's became even more complicated. So we'll get through it, and then we'll get our operating grant, I do expect, in the future. And we did receive, something I didn't include in that was, it's a 3% increase. Was that, sorry, Jesse, I'm asking you. Year over year. So they did go with a 3% increase year over year. The legislator did, so that's what we were awarded. So it's better than the previous 2%, a little better, 1% better. And what else do we have? We have a comprehensive review, which is essentially a comprehensive audit coming up from MnDOT. They'll be here in August and on site to review everything. So essentially, we have the consultant reviewing the agency, and then we also have an actual audit happening as well. So everything will get turned over and looked at and revamped and cleaned up for going forward. Does anybody have any questions for me on anything else?
Mr. Chair?
Yep, go ahead, Jeff.
I have a question, but it's going to take me a minute to get there.
Okay.
When the city budgets for employees, they put that in and they estimate, okay, you have this employee, we're going to hire this person at X amount of dollars, so they calculate that into their total budget. And now if it takes, let's say they anticipate that new person to start on January 1st. And if that person didn't start until, say, May 1st, the city would then save 4 months' worth of that salary, okay? So they would essentially have budgeted for that money, but not have used it. In the case of our third-party contractor, they proposed a price for their services which included paying that manager that they don't have. So in that instance, are we able to then recoup that money that we have paid them to hire that manager, being they don't have that manager? Is that something we've thought of?
It's something we've brought up with their, I don't know what his title is, the director, about the concerns about not having a third-party manager. Now, to their credit, he has been more involved than he was prior to losing the third-party manager. He's been on site more often. It is not full-time. He hasn't been there 40 hours. And I know he's also utilized some of his dispatchers / drivers to kind of fill in some gaps on some of the tasks that manager would complete. But so far, not to the level that we would expect for a full-time third-party manager. They are putting in the effort to try and close that gap without that person in place. But no, we are not seeing the expected result of that, and that has been shared with them, let's say clearly. of what the expectation is moving forward.
Well, I mean, you see my point. We have paid for a service. They budgeted, they proposed an amount of money they would need to provide that service. That included having that staff. So are we ever asked them, are we gonna see some refund based on their not having the staff they promised, they signed, they agreed to hire to do this service? Is that something we can ask them for? And we considered that.
That was part of my communication. It wasn't specifically laid out that way. It was more that we would be looking at ways to remedy that if things were not corrected. And that wasn't just related to the third-party manager. It was a few different items where they're lacking on a few things. Is we would look through our contract for ways to remedy the issues if they aren't corrected
Okay.
kind of immediately.
Thank you. Did you have further updates?
Oh, I'm fine.
Over, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yep.
go ahead, Jesse.
So, Mr. Chair, I gave a little bit of my update of what we've been, obviously, we've had a pretty busy summer with talking with our different cooperative partners and the Brainerd City Council, and we'll continue to have those conversations as these changes begin to start taking effect, like we talked about. This also kind of starts another process here, so if Crystal didn't express how busy we are with essentially 2 different audits happening at the same time of all of our stuff, we're also going to have to revamp all of our agreements with our remaining partners here. With the loss of Pine River, we are going to want to redo those agreements with Crow Wing and Baxter to make sure everybody's very clear on what the expectations are moving forward and what the framework of the program is going to look like. Some of that's going to be a share of the expenses, and what does that look like? It's not very clearly stated in some of the agreements, so we want to make sure we button that up a little bit. So that is also going to be another thing that we're going to have to start exploring here over the next month or so, is recrafting those agreements with our cooperative partners and moving that forward, so that way we all have a very clear understanding of what responsibilities for the overall transit program will be.
Mr. Chair, I did have one other item to add. I wanted to introduce Brittany over there to the Transit Committee. Brittany is... She hasn't been through a TAC yet. No, this is Brittany's first TAC meeting. She is a Parks admin? She is Public Works Administrative Specialist. She will assist Transit just a little bit, but she does everything else Public Works related. So she'll sit in the meetings and do minutes and help me out with odds and ends, and she's helpful and very welcome, so.
Very nice, welcome. Thank you. Anything else as far as department updates?
Could I ask, I know it's not a real popular topic, but the bus accidents, I understand can you just kind of let us know where we're at with, was there one yesterday?
Yes, Mr. Chesak, there was an accident yesterday and the day prior.
Yeah. Are they buses out of commission? Are they
One
operable?
bus is out of commission, one bus is being checked out by a mechanic before it's put into service full-time. There were no injuries, there were no passengers on board. The buses, I do believe, will be repairable to be put back on the road, which is, so that's the good news that came out of the unfortunate accident.
Was there, I know, I guess, are we looking at any driver mishap, or is it more of a, somebody else kind of, I understand somebody ran a stop sign and it wasn't the bus yesterday. Is that?
So from what it appears in the videos, it looks like the bus driver was in the correct in both instances. One was they had the right of way, they had taken off from the stop sign. The other person kind of rolled through a stop sign and then accelerated into the bus. And then the other one, to your point, unfortunately, it was at the intersection that we're going to be redoing in a couple years at Willow Street and 6th. Somebody had blown through that stop sign and kind of teed into the bus going down 6th southbound. So maybe in a couple years, hopefully that won't happen anymore.
Well, as much as we don't like to see accidents, if the drivers are doing what they're supposed to do, that's the positive part about this, right?
Yes, the drivers that did hit the buses and both accidents were cited by the police department, not the transit drivers, the other party drivers, both were cited and ticketed.
The hard part of that is it's not budgeted, accidents.
It's-
So,
Insurance covers it. Insurance should cover that, and our contractor carries the insurance, so that will be up to them to resolve. And the buses are, the one is already at the body shop. It went there the very next day, so it's being worked on.
you have to pay a deductible, though.
The city does, the contractor does.
And-
All insurance is on the contractor.
And on that note, are these buses, what is the age of the two that are recently? Are they new?
One is one of our oldest buses and one of two that are slated to be replaced as soon as we receive one of our new buses. So that one, I believe, is a 2014. The accident from yesterday is a 2018, so that is one of our newer buses. That bus can still be in service but needs to be okayed by a mechanic before it's full-time on the road.
It's unfortunate one of our older buses is gonna have money spent on it for repair. Is that what I'm hearing? Even though it's insurance covered? Is that what I understand you just said?
It'll be insurance covered, and yes, there would be repair. There's a lot of repairs needed on
Well,
that older bus.
if we got the new bus today, would we repair that bus?
Yes, because the second oldest bus that's rated the same and slated to be sold at auction is in poor mechanical, even worse mechanical shape than the one that was hit 2 days ago. So there's one in front of it to get rid of. So it would be smartest for us to fix this one.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it's fixable.
And just to add on to that, that is something that Crystal and I talk about quite often when these major repairs come through. One of our buses are going in to have a rear end rebuilt. While unfortunate and expensive, it is a conversation that Crystal and I have very quickly is where is that slated in the lineup of replacements? Is it close? Is it not? Is it worth rebuilding and spending a considerable amount of maintenance dollars into it? And it is something that we review with just about all those little major repairs, I would say.
Thank you. Oh, I think we kind of naturally moved into committee member comments, questions, but does anyone else?
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, since we've been talking about the deficit, I just want to point out, and it's to the former TAC committees, members and employees, and city council. We have been very fortunate that ridership has been able to cover our expenses for many years. I can't even tell you how long it is, but kudos out to all the former committee members, former employees, former city council members. So I just want to say kudos.
Thank you. Anyone else?
This is, public forum, no, community.
Committee member comments and/or questions?
Oh, okay. I have something to say.
Go for it, Jeff.
On that same note, you know, the committee serves, you know, with no compensation. And I served as a committee member for years, and I never expected anything. And I just want to thank you guys for serving, and you know, you're taking part in your civic, you know, sharing your time. And sometimes people will question motives, express a dislike of a decision or a recommendation, and I just want to say that whatever we do, whether it's a plan, an idea, a recommendation, none of us are perfect. And so if there's ever any criticism of what we've done or haven't done, I just want to say that we're all human, and sometimes humans make mistakes, and nobody's perfect, so just so you know, I have your back as the council liaison to this committee, and I appreciate the work all the volunteers do for the city of Brainerd, so thank you on Jan's, kind of to support what Jan said as well.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Anything further?
I have a question for Jesse. I know this is probably kind of far out, but I was just curious about the article that was in the paper as far as Crow Wing County, what they had said. Is it Tim Hool?
I guess I'm looking for context on what's the specific question on that one.
I'd have to read it a little bit farther, but I might be reading something into it, but where he says that if this doesn't all get corrected, then the county's done with the busing service, and that kind of worried me a little bit. I'm just curious if that's,
I don't think that comment was received by Administrator Hool. If I remember correctly, I believe one of the county board members expressed something of that nature. Is
yeah, that's what I was
more
wondering.
of the disinterest of expending levy dollars towards the program, that if it can't be funded through fairs, kind of similar to the system it is now, that on, I believe it was, oh gosh, I can't remember which one, but I believe that was his opinion, is that he wouldn't want to support transit program on the Crow Wing County side if the fairs couldn't support it.
Yeah, if I may, I'm pretty familiar with that was said there. The one county board member said if this can't pay for itself, essentially, he's not interested in spending tax dollars. Now, he's one man out of five.
Yes.
So just keep that in mind,
Okay.
and so again, this goes back to people make decisions, for whatever reasons they have, and we can't predict that every county board member is going to follow in line with that. So, but I understand your concern as well, so, yeah.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Anything else from the committee?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Are we gonna set up for another meeting?
Yeah, let's talk about that briefly.
Oh.
What are you thinking, Crystal or Jesse? Do you have any ideas of a next meeting? Or what we might look forward to here, or anything after these consultants you're working with, maybe?
Yes, I was just gonna check and see what month I think our quarterly meetings are August? Does that sound correct? But that might be a little soon.
Well, if I may, we're gonna be looking at the third-party contract stuff. I don't know how far in advance we want to get started on that. And I know that's about a year out before that gets finalized, right?
So
Sooner than that.
Yep. So something I would propose is, if you want to kind of stick to a kind of a quarterly schedule, we could schedule the next one in October, which would time out pretty well for having another meeting in January, which will help us, one, recap the year. We'll have a few months of changes to be able to analyze, and then we can start having discussions about, that'll be kind of our kickoff to prepping the next request for proposals, as the contract does end mid-year 2024. Crystal and I have already talked about after the beginning of the year that is something that her and I are going to begin digging into quite thoroughly, is crafting the next upcoming proposal.
So what day would that be in October?
That
The third Thursday again?
be, yes, third Thursday. Bear with me.
We're gonna
19th.
throw out that the third Thursday is MEA break and youth hunting. Just those of you who have school-age
So
children, and
Nate won't be there.
just throwing it out there. Not that we can't tonight.
Got that one earmarked.
Do we want to change it up and do the third Thursday? Are you okay with
I
that?
think the 12th or the 26th either would
Yeah.
be fine for me. I don't.
How about
26th?
the 26th?
Okay.
Well, that's pretty close to Halloween. I don't know if we should do that.
We can dress up, Jeff.
We can.
That'd be festive.
That would be fun. Please do. So the 26th, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
3 o'clock or 2:30?
I
What
defer
would the
to the
committee-
committee, but I will write it down in big bold letters here.
What would the committee prefer?
It doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, let's stick with 2:30, October 26th. Thank you.
I like 2:30.
Works for me. I'll do a better job of noting that. All right, at one point we had a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second it?
Perfect, we got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned at 3:21.
One of your quickest meetings.
I know,